Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and I have been covering Warner Brothers Discovery very closely these last 4 or 5 months. I've done more than 100 videos on them on all kinds of topics, including Velma, and now I think this is getting into a dangerous situation. A lot of us have seen Velma. I have seen Velma. I don't approve of what they did with the franchise. I think a lot of it was careless, really self-indulgent. But now it looks like things could be much worse. It looks like, Hanna-Barbera has been known for doing things with crossovers with the other properties in the Hanna-Barbera universe, and we could be looking at a Velma-verse situation here. Because Velma did a gag, and I'm sorry, this is a bit of a spoiler, but Velma did a gag acknowledging the existence of the Flintstones in a recent episode. This is to mean this, basically. I don't know if they should go forward with Velma or not. I'm not planning programming for HBO Max. I know there's been a lot of controversy. I think it's understood that on HBO Max, they know there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of controversy. That's the popularity that the show is getting and the attention that the show is getting and the attention to the franchises. But I don't know if they care at Warner Brothers Discovery that it's negative publicity. I would hope they would. But the truth of it is, these are franchises, the Hanna-Barbera franchises, Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, that they own outright, that they do want to monetize. They want to make money from these franchises. So if a producer like Mindy Kaling and, someone on her level, and she is at an important level in the industry, decides they want to invest in one of their intellectual properties, unless there are other plans right now specifically for the Flintstones, other plans right now specifically for Scooby-Doo that would interfere in making a deal like that, Warner Brothers Discovery does appear to be the kind of company that's willing to make a deal and do things. Just the reference to the Flintstones and to the way they, and I'm going to get into this article in a second where they talk about how they updated the look a little bit of the Flintstones. That's already kind of acclimating the Flintstones to the Velma universe, this new dark adult humor version, which it's not that big of a stretch to think they may do something very similar with the Flintstones. Whether or not Velma is going to be in a crossover episode, if they're going to expand what they're doing with Velma to other Hanna-Barbera universe characters, it's extremely likely. That is basically how you would do that. It's been done in television for a very long time, where you introduce other characters, such as like the Jeffersons in All in the Family. That goes back to the 1970s, but they had all kinds of crossovers going on in Hanna-Barbera, even the Flintstones meet the Jetsons. So this is dangerous territory. Look, it's not going to be the end of the world, but man, they are potentially damaging franchises forever. Let's get into this article. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. Velma confirms the existence of another iconic Hanna-Barbera family. Velma is full of references and Easter eggs to other cartoons and TV shows. In Season 1, Episode 6, there's a visual gag featuring the Flintstones. Velma, like previous entries in the Scooby-Doo franchise, will make occasional reference to other Warner Brothers' own shows. While it's yet to go full crossover in the same vein as Scooby-Doo Meets Batman, this could happen. This is a thing that could really happen. It has referenced properties like Superman and the CW's Riverdale. In the latest episode, Season 1, Episode 6, The Sins of the Fathers and Some of the Mothers, Velma also references a fellow Hanna-Barbera creation, the Flintstones. This episode of Velma features a montage that has a couple of other references, both to old Scooby-Doo ghosts and another Hanna-Barbera cartoon, Captain Caveman, and the Teen Angels. As part of the montage, Daphne and her birth parents pose with a cardboard cutout of Fred, Wilma, and Pebbles Flintstone. The Flintstone family also has a slightly updated design to fit the animation style of Velma. So technically, the Flintstones have already been modified a little bit to fit into the Velma universe, the Velma-verse aesthetic. It's already happened. This reference is far from the first time that Scooby-Doo characters have interacted with their fellow Hanna-Barbera creations. But of course, the difference is that this is a very strange version of Hanna-Barbera characters. And the Flintstones have been adapted before. The Flintstones were a very successful movie in 1994. They did in 1994. So this is like a long time ago, almost 30 years ago, $358 million worldwide on a $43 million movie. And then, of course, they sold, this was not when you had as much digital, you didn't have digital stuff then. You didn't have digital downloads or anything like that. So you had videotapes. Did we even have DVDs back then? I can't remember, but they made a lot of money. Let's just put it that way. They made a lot of money on the Flintstones movie. They did a follow-up movie for the Flintstones that did awful in the year 2000. That didn't work, and the ratings on it were terrible, very, very bad feedback. People did not like the Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas, but I think the cast changed as well. Flintstones could be a live-action film franchise, which is why I look at these and I say, I don't know why the Warner Brothers Discovery people are so willing to let people mess around with these iconic characters. And I guess the answer is, well, listen, we have such an enormous library and such an enormous debt, which they do. They have a $50 billion debt. If someone's going to come in and mainstream and exploit some of their intellectual property, unless it interferes with the plan for a universe like they're doing at DCU, they're going to let people mess around a bit with their franchises, especially if they don't have any immediate plans to do anything else with the Flintstones on any serious level. So why would you not build a dark comedy Hanna-Barbera universe if they're satisfied, for whatever their objectives were, if they're satisfied with what's going on with Velma? The Scooby Gang have met the Flintstones before. This isn't the first time that characters from Scooby-Doo interacted with the wider Hanna-Barbera universe. Way before the MCU was a thing, Hanna-Barbera would consistently feature crossovers with their own cartoons. Some notable crossovers included Jabberjaw the Shark, Speed Buggy, and the Blue Falcon. They even have met the real Captain Caveman, who appears in Velma in the form of a mascot, costumes, and cardboard cutouts. Back in 2014, Mystery Inc. met the Flintstones themselves when they got sent back in time in Scooby-Doo Team Up number 7. The issue followed the gang helping Bedrock solve the mystery of the Phantom of the Op-Rock, meaning the gang even got to experience some classic terrible Flintstones rock pun. While it's unlikely that Velma will feature the Flintstones in the same way, they may still crop up in some form in future episodes. I'm telling you something, if this bizarre, dark, aesthetic version of Velma is successful, there will be other Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and Mindy Kaling will very likely be creatively involved, unless she chose not to be, if she was too busy. But I have a feeling she'd not make herself too busy. She would make the time. Velma will likely poke fun at other Hanna-Barbera cartoons. By the way, we don't even know what her deal is. And not that we would necessarily know what her deal is. That's between her and Warner Brothers Discovery. She may already have access in her contracts to develop more of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. That's speculative, but, I mean, they're doing this little bits and pieces of crossover introduction things already, so it makes you wonder. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Velma seems less interested in crossing over with other famous cartoons of the same era, preferring to use its Family Guy style of reference humor to simply mention them or remind viewers they existed. If anything, seeing cardboard cutouts of the Flintstones all but confirms that they're nothing more than fictional characters in the world of Velma. I don't agree with that. You know, you have cardboard cutouts of celebrities, and it seems unlikely that an amusement park would just happen to know exactly what a family of Stone Age people would look like. Viewers who are hoping to see new incarnations of Fred or Wilma show up may have to settle for seeing Velma's version of the show on a TV screen. That being said, viewers can likely expect the show's more explicit references to be more contemporary, with properties like the Flintstones relegated to visual Easter eggs. From its first 6 episodes, Velma seems more interested in capturing a younger audience than reveling in nostalgia for old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. While the show will likely reference or poke fun at other shows like Yogi Bear or the Jetsons, it probably won't be anything near the extent of the crossover episodes from the former Scooby-Doo shows. But you want to know something? It was much more bizarre that they did a live-action Flintstones in the first place than to think like, oh, will they do a special episode where Velma goes back in time or invents a time machine and goes back and meets the Flintstones? Like, that's not even a stretch. You could have somebody from the future like the Jetsons using a time machine, collecting Velma to solve a mystery in the age of the Stone Age. That's my pitch right now. The Flintstones in particular seems to be struggling to retain the same level of cultural relevance as Scooby-Doo, making it unlikely that the show will make many jokes dependent on its audience being familiar with the old show. However, this quick reference to the old cartoon will likely have eagle-eyed Hanna-Barbera fans on the lookout for any upcoming Easter eggs featuring old favorites. I think that, you have to think 2 steps ahead of these guys, at least 1 step. Let me know what you think, please, in the comments below. Do you think that Warner Brothers Discovery would accept a licensing check for a couple of $1 million for permission to do a Flintstones Velmaverse incorporated crossover? Do you think they would let her mess around with the other Hanna-Barbera properties? I'm going to say I think that they would. I think they'd be very happy to allow Mindy Kaling to do it, as long as Warner Brothers Discovery is happy with how Velma is going. If they're satisfied with Velma and Mindy Kaling wants to do more, unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot more of this treatment of the Hanna-Barbera characters and I think we're going to see a lot of it. But thanks again for letting me know what you think in the comments below. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.